Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, the U.S. Supreme Court tosses out part of Arizona's immigration law. City leaders in San Diego respond to that ruling.
And why the Supreme Court decision matters to San Diego. The legal fallout tonight at the Roundtable.
Today, the High Court also decided not to decide anything in the case of the Mount Soledad Cross. But the decades-long battle isn't over yet. We'll have a look at what comes next. Plus, the latest election shows a political division in San Diego, north and south, with Interstate 8 serving as the Mason-Dixon line. We'll have a look at crossing that divide. KPBS Evening Edition starts now. Good evening. A mixed ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court today on Arizona's controversial crackdown on illegal immigration. The High Court threw out parts of Senate Bill 1070, but upheld one part that critics say could lead to racial profiling. The divided court tossed out a requirement for all immigrants to carry and obtain immigration registration papers, and a section making it a state criminal offense for an illegal immigrant to seek work or hold a job. The justices also said police cannot arrest suspected illegal immigrants without warrants. But they upheld what's known as the Show Me Your Papers provision, requiring police to check the immigration status of those they stop for other reasons. There was guarded optimism about the ruling today from a coalition of San Diego's leaders. Some politicians, police, and religious leaders gathered to say the ruling is a step in the right direction, but they said the Show Your Papers requirement could keep immigrants from reporting crimes.
We are not making this America's finest city when we turn our police officers into immigration enforcement officers. We encourage San Diegans to speak out in whatever their immigration status about crime in their neighborhood.
Back in 2010, Councilman Gloria and 6 other members of the San Diego City Council passed a resolution calling for the repeal of SB 1070. Mayoral candidate Carl DeMaio was the only no vote. Joanne Farian asked him about it during a candidates' debate last month.
How would we like it? How would we like it if a state legislature on the East Coast or a city in the Midwest decided to tell San Diego how we should be governing our affairs? So I'm not going to support what I think is grandstanding by politicians. I want to focus on issues that matter to our residents that we should be focusing on, and that's why I voted against that resolution. It's why I vote against many of these quote-unquote symbolic resolutions that have nothing to do with the core function of city government.
There's been no comment on today's ruling from DeMaio, but his opponent, Congressman Bob Filner, sent a statement in an email today. It read in part, the court made a grave error in upholding the discriminatory Show Me Your Papers provision that encourages racial profiling and violates basic human rights. We're going to have more from the roundtable about SB 1070's ruling in just a moment. But first, there's other news from the Supreme Court. The controversial cross atop Mount Soledad in La Jolla remains unconstitutional. Today, the court said it would not take up the case. KPBS senior news editor Mark Sauer is in the news center with details. And Mark, what does today's decision mean?
Well, the Supreme Court let stand a January 2011 ruling by the Ninth Circuit that says the 43-foot memorial is a religious symbol and it would have to be significantly altered or taken down. It sits on federal land, and the court ruled it's a religious symbol that violates the Constitution's Establishment Clause.
And Mark, this is the longest-running case of its kind in U.S. history, correct?
Yes, it began with a lawsuit filed by a pair of military veterans in 1989. And this is hardly the end of it. It goes back to the federal court in San Diego, where an attempt will be made to comply with the appeals court by altering the cross, but another appeal could yet be filed.
Well, what's been some of today's reaction to this ruling?
Conservative Congressman Brian Bilbray and Duncan D. Hunter were disappointed, but they're hopeful that the door has been left open. And David Blair Loy of the ACLU says refusing to hear the case was the right decision.
Okay, KPBS senior news editor Mark Sauer. Today, the Supreme Court also reaffirmed its decision relaxing limits on corporate campaign spending. The justices said the 2010 Citizens United ruling applies to state campaign finance laws, giving corporations and labor unions the right to spend freely to campaign for or against candidates for state and local offices. More now on the split decision regarding Arizona's immigration law with Joanne at the Evening Edition Roundtable.
My guests are Glenn Smith, law professor at Cal Western School of Law, and Lilia Velasquez, an immigration and naturalization attorney and an adjunct professor also at Cal Western. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Glenn, I want to start with you. Both sides are claiming victory. We have the president who wanted this law struck down, saying, hey, I got sort of what I wanted, and Arizona's governor who says, hey, the key part of the law, show me your papers, that was upheld. What's your take?
This always happens when the court neither supports completely one side or completely the other. You get the question, is the glass half full or half empty, right? I will say that certainly if you do the numbers, the federal government won more than it lost. It got 3 provisions invalidated of the 4. All of those could have been upheld under different scenarios by this court. And on the 4th issue that many people are saying the court approved, it did not technically approve Arizona's show me your papers, quote unquote, proposal. It just said it's too early now to invalidate it based on what the federal government said because it hasn't even been interpreted or applied. But the court left the door open for both the federal government to come in and claim that there was an interference with federal priorities that had not been anticipated, or more importantly, individuals to come in and challenge it on the basis that it's being discriminatorily applied.
What 3 provisions of the law were struck down?
The 3 provisions would have allowed Arizona and many of the other states that were in line waiting to do this to help enforce the federal requirement that individuals have registration, proper registration for immigration. It would have allowed states to penalize employees who worked illegally or tried to work illegally. And it also would have helped with removing people from the United States who the state thought should be removable. So on these key federal priorities of aliens registering, employment, and in removability from the country, the court sent a pretty clear message that it was a federal priority and states should not get involved in that.
So, Lilia, now that we have one part of this law still being upheld, who will this impact?
Well, let me first add to what Glenn said, if
Sure.
it's okay. The way that I see it is that we both lost. I mean, certainly Arizona lost 3 of the provisions in the bill, and we lost the most egregious part of the legislation, which is show me your papers. So in that sense, I mean, we're very disappointed. Now, in terms of the impact in the community, we're feeling it already. I mean, this is what people are discussing today. Everybody has been waiting for the decision from the Supreme Court, and it took them so long to issue that decision that, we were just very impatient, and we knew it was going to come down today. People are afraid. People are afraid that the sentiment that prevails in Arizona is also going to spill over into San Diego, especially when you consider that the number of people that have been arrested in the last few years has been the highest of any presidential administration.
Arrested here in San Diego or across the country?
In San Diego and across the country. But every day people get arrested. And
arrested for being an undocumented immigrant, or arrested and then turned over to ICE for being an undocumented immigrant?
Arrested for either violating a traffic infraction, after which then the police officer will call on ICE or the Border Patrol, or arrested simply because they look to be in the country without documents. And that is the issue that really concerns me, racial profiling. I just don't see, even if Jim Brewer from Arizona says we're not going to use racial profiling, we're going to obey the law, you can't take racial profiling out of the equation.
I want to talk more about that, but Glenn, I saw you nodding your head because I know people at home now are going to want to sort of know where those numbers come from, that here in San Diego, here in California, people are being arrested.
Well, where I was shaking my head was on the idea that there is still a climate of uncertainty about what really matters to most people, which is what are the limits on state and local law enforcement in in doing more than just enforce state and local laws, but actually try to look toward also enforcing federal laws. And I think that the court did not clarify that today. That left a lot of the questions that Lilia and many other advocates for immigrant rights and also issues that people on the other side are concerned about. The court simply had an opportunity to wipe out this law. They didn't. But at the same time, they said, you know, these issues are going to might well come back to judicial forums and in some other form.
So then for states or local governments, which, as you say, have been waiting to say, okay, can I do this? They still don't know? This is still an unanswered question?
It is, in the sense that they're saying if you, state police from Arizona, violate the law or use draconian tactics or use racial profiling, we're going to throw this out. So beware. The problem is, and I was discussing this with Glenn earlier, is that how can you not use racial profiling in such situations? And I think that officers that were doing it even before the law was approved today, they're going to be emboldened by the decisions. It's, okay, green light. And I'm not sure that this uncertainty that scholars may have, immigration lawyers may have, really translates to the public, or that people are going to understand it. What you hear in the streets is, show me your papers, is not the law in Arizona.
And we should say that the governor of Arizona did say today police would undergo training they would teach them how not to actually use racial profiling in this. And your point well taken in terms of how do you not. I do want to just play a clip right now. This is from a PBS NewsHour piece, and this is from Russell Pierce, and he is one of the authors of the law, SB 1070. And I just want to show you and the people at home what he had to say about the law. Here it is.
What's coming across that border today are gangbangers, drug smugglers, human smugglers, child molesters, bad guys. They live in fear of their lives. You know, their water lines are cut, their animals are slaughtered, their dogs' throats are cut, their fences are torn down, they're threatened. Some of them have their windows and doors boarded. They pray for daylight. If they hear noises, they don't dare come outside.
Now, Lilia, you spoke about the sentiment behind this law. Is that what you're talking about? Is that sort of the fear when you talk about people here at home?
It is, unfortunately, unfounded fear. I mean, you're mixing two things. General crime, you know, whether in any border city you may have maybe an increase of criminal activity, or some sort of criminal activity. What Russell Pierce has stated has nothing to do with what the Supreme Court decided today. We're not talking about predators. We're not talking about criminals, people caught in the act of doing something heinous. We're talking about your everyday person like me. Take away my suit, take away my shoes, take away the makeup. I have an accent. I could be detained by an Arizona state officer for looking, perhaps, you know, being an illegal immigrant in this country. It has nothing to do with crime. It has to do with just immigration policy.
What I wanted to say is I think that that clip illustrates a bigger picture that we see with immigration, but in general, which is people feel very strongly about law enforcement on one side or the other of this issue and lots of issues. The law is not very good at dealing with that kind of concern, perceptual concern, especially this kind of a challenge is like, is the law valid or not? Before it's even been enforced. The whole question about how is it enforced and with what degree of sophistication and nuance and how many abuses does it take to make a pattern that strikes down a law, and those kind of issues are very, very difficult for the law to deal with in this kind of a is it valid or not context. And so I think that's really partly what's going on here is there's no way the court in whatever it said could have addressed and put to bed all of these concerns.
Now, Lilia, you were here not long ago talking about President Obama's new policy, new immigration policy that says basically if you're under 30, you were brought here, illegally when you were just a kid, you get to stay and you get to work. Now, can't you see in Arizona the potential for that colliding now with the show me your papers?
There's definitely a clash now between what Arizona would do in terms of the implementation of SB 1070 and the two policies by the Obama administration. One, don't deport anybody that is not a criminal. Two, maybe the Dreamers, which just came out on the 15th of June, if they meet the criteria, we're going to let them stay. Not only that, we're going to give them a work permit. So they're going to have some pseudo-legal immigration status. Therefore, will the state police in Arizona be able to make that distinction. And if they see somebody that seems to meet the profile of a dreamer that may qualify for deferred status, are they going to let that person go because it would be a waste of time to take them into custody? Or are they just going to arrest that person because they're doing their job and they want the numbers to go up and to show, you see, we were right. Thanks to us, because now we're partnering with the federal government, we're arresting more people and we're going to deport them. It's a mess.
We have so many more unanswered questions. I know we have a lot of links on our website. There's also a longer conversation from midday. That's kpbs.org. I want to thank you both for being here.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tomorrow is the United Nations International Day in support of victims of torture. It's estimated there are 11,000 refugees in San Diego who are torture victims. A growing number, about 10% of those victims, are children. Today I spoke with the parents of one of those children at Survivors of Torture International in San Diego.
تجربته كل واحد وهو يعني أكو ناس.
After the fall of Baghdad in 2003, the American government began to rebuild the city. Tabat Khalaf, an architect and university professor in Iraq, was suspected of participating in the redevelopment. Terrorists, he said, made sure that didn't happen.
They started kidnapping people who are taking part in the redevelopment of Iraq. And because I was an architect, so at the end they kidnapped my boy.
His 22-year-old son, a university student, hasn't been seen since.
Even I had to pay ransom, but we could not get our boy. And then they threatened my other boys and myself, so we had to leave the country.
He and his family arrived 3 years ago and were referred to the Survivors of Torture International Organization in San Diego. His story is similar to the 200 torture survivors seen here each year.
Most of them are really well educated from their home countries. They're the ones that stand up for human rights, equal rights, for their own religion, for principles of democracy. And for those reasons, they're tortured.
Khalaf and his wife, Nisreen Hassan, are grateful for the refuge in San Diego and the kindness they've found here.
I wear everything black, and also the scarf black. I thought the people will not accept me, but all people say hi, hello, so I've been very relaxed here. I feel safe, really, I really feel safe here.
They want to give back.
I busy with my book, so after I finishing my book, I will go to college.
That we are here not for a vacation. We are here to stay here. We are here to become citizens of this country.
San Diego's Survivors of Torture International is funded by private donations and some money from the federal and state government. Governor Jerry Brown and Democratic lawmakers have come up with an incentive to get his proposed tax increase passed in November. The incentive is a tuition freeze at California's public universities. The plan would give each university system an extra $125 million in the academic year starting in 2013. UC Regents would have to agree to not raise fees, and CSU leaders would have to rescind a planned $500 increase. The Chula Vista Police Department is getting $750,000 to hire some veterans. The grant comes from a federal program called Community-Oriented Policing Services, or COPS. The department will be able to hire 6 recent veterans. And Interstate 8 has historically acted as a dividing line for San Diego, but a combination of redistricting and recent elections has widened the gulf. KPBS Metro reporter Katie Orr tells us that may mean what that may mean for the city.
San Diego is a city of freeways. It's hard to get anywhere outside your neighborhood without taking one. But the roads do more than provide quick access out to the beach or up to LA. They also carve out different parts of the city and one acts as a political boundary as well.
I'm standing near the Interstate 8. The freeway runs west to the Pacific Ocean and east to the mountains and desert beyond. It cuts right through the heart of San Diego and increasingly serves as a dividing line between the north and south sides of the city.
It didn't intend to be a demographic divide.
John Weeks is a geography professor at San Diego State University. Interstate 8 runs through Mission Valley, which Weeks says has always separated the original city and the newer suburbs to the north.
We do have this historical divide that's created a demographic divide between the old part of the city, where people had sort of been left behind a little bit, and the newer parts of the city north of Interstate 8.
The northern part of San Diego is generally wealthier, older, and whiter than the city's southern half, and that demographic divide translates into a political divide. Neighborhoods north of Interstate 8 trend Republican, while those in the south go Democratic. That split became even more apparent after the primary. When newly drawn city council districts take effect, all the council members to the south of the 8 and east of I-5 will be Democratic, while those to the north and west will be Republicans. One possible exception, District 1, will be decided in November. Interstate 8 was also a dividing line in the recent mayoral primary. A majority of voters in the north went for Republican City Councilman Carl DeMaio, and the southern part of the city went for Democratic Congressman Bob Filner. The two will face off in November.
Good morning. Hi.
Hi. Can we get a half a dozen donut holes, please?
Okie dokie. I gave you a couple of extras. All right. You're welcome.
Smack in the middle of the northern half of the city sits Donut Touch, a store brimming with glazed chocolate and maple bacon donuts in gleaming display cases.
3 of the chocolate bars.
Owner Benavati has been in the donut business in San Diego for more than 30 years. He says the entire country is split along party lines, and that's trickling into local government.
San Diego is divided. Yes, I can see that. And between Democrats and Republicans, and all the war is going on between them, and trying to settle, all the differences we have is just a big mess.
How you doing? Good, good, thank you. Everything looks so good here.
At Donut Touch, I caught up with Councilmember-elect Mark Kersey.
Yeah, for chocolate, yeah, perfect.
The store sits on the edge of his district in Scripps Ranch. He's a Republican, and if DeMaio is elected mayor,
San Diego is emerging from a frustrating decade.
Kersey is expected to back his fiscally conservative agenda. But Kersey insists he doesn't see San Diego's politics in partisan terms.
I don't think so. I think in Sacramento we've seen that, and I think in Washington we've seen that. But I think here at the local level, it's not about Republican versus Democrat. It's about reform versus status quo. And what we've seen over the last 5 years is that pretty much every significant piece of reform initiative that we've put to the voters has passed.
It's true. Voters have approved Republican measures calling for outsourcing some city services, prohibiting San Diego from entering into union-friendly project labor agreements, and eliminating pensions for most new city employees. But go south of 8, and you may get a different perspective on the recent election. Democratic Councilman Todd Gloria stands outside Giorgino's cheesesteak shop, listening to the owner, who's frustrated the city removed some public trash cans. Giorgino sits at the center of San Diego's southern half in Golden Hill, an area Gloria will soon be representing. He's concerned about the political divides in the city.
I'm third-generation San Diegan. We all know about the north and south of 8 divide. And what I think is perhaps troubling about the current drawings, though, is that there aren't council members that have a stake on both sides of that fence.
Gloria believes the city has done well in recent years because it's had a moderate mayor and representatives willing to reach across the aisle. But the city's new political geography may set San Diego up for gridlock. Mario Rosales, who owns the cheesesteak shop, says it doesn't have to be that way.
If you want to work with somebody, if you want to make certain things happen, you're going to do everything in your power, even if it means, bending a little bit on what you want.
It's a message Rosales hopes San Diego's lawmakers hear as they face each other across the city's political divide.
Tonight in the public square, your reaction to the Supreme Court decision on Arizona's controversial illegal immigration law, SB 1070. P. King Duck writes, yes, the Supreme Court did uphold a provision of the law, but if anything, there was no clear winner to come out of this. But that didn't stop Jan Brewer from giving an all-out victory speech and gloating before television cameras while insulting the President of the United States. And Richard Schroeder writes on Facebook, I still don't understand how a U.S. citizen who somehow looks foreign to law enforcement officers protects herself or himself from an endless stream of harassment. Well, tell us what you think. Send me an email, jfarian@kpbs.org, or post a comment on Twitter or on our Facebook account.
Recapping tonight's top stories, as Joanne just said, today the U.S. Supreme Court threw out parts of Arizona's immigration law. The High Court let one controversial part stand, though. Police officers would still be required to check the immigration status of people that they stop. The justices refused to take up the case of the Mount Soledad Cross. It now goes back to the federal court in San Diego, where an attempt will be made to comply with prohibition of religious symbols on public land. An appeals court has ruled the cross unconstitutional. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us and have a great evening.